Under Malaysia's new CDM Regulations 2024, one principle defines how projects must now be managed. Governance must always exist, but it should be proportionate to the level of risk. Not every project needs heavy documentation, but every project must show that risks were identified early, discussed by the right people, and controlled before work begins. In this video, we explain the 4 levels of CDM project complexity. Low complexity, where controls are lean but disciplined. For medium projects below the CDM Regulation 8 threshold, where coordination becomes structured. For medium projects above the CDM Regulation 8 notification threshold, where formal governance is required. And high complexity projects, where full CDM assurance and board-level oversight are essential. We will also show how the golden thread, from PCI to CDRA and DDRA, through to CPP and the SHF, keeps every decision traceable and defensible. Let's explore how proportionate CDM governance protects people, protects projects, and protects clients from unnecessary risk.
You know, when it comes to safety and just getting things done, we often think the answer is more rules, right? But what if it's not about more rules, but smarter rules? That's what we're digging into today, the amazing power of proportionality. So let's just jump right in with a bit of a puzzle. How on earth can the exact same set of safety rules apply to something super simple, like changing a doorknob on a TV set, and also to building a massive, complex concert stage? I mean, it just doesn't seem possible, right? Any rule you make would either be way too much for the doorknob or nowhere near enough for the stage. Yeah, it feels like a total paradox, but the solution isn't what you might think. We're not talking about writing a million different rule books for every single little task. No, the answer is actually way more elegant, and it all hinges on one single powerful idea. And that big idea? It's called proportionality. It's a pretty straightforward concept when you break it down. It just means that the amount of effort you put in, all the planning, the governance, the paperwork, should be a direct match for the level of risk you're dealing with. No more and no less. Simple as that. And the BBC's own guidance on this just nails it. They say the goal is sensible risk control, not generating paperwork. And isn't that just perfect? The whole point is to actually be safer and smarter, not to just create this mountain of paper that, let's be honest, sometimes takes longer to fill out than the job itself. Okay, so take a look at this. The BBC has this great way of visualizing it. They call it the wedge of effort. It's super intuitive. For a low-risk project, you've got just a small wedge of effort. But as that risk level starts to climb, so does the size of the wedge. It's a fantastic, simple visual for how you should scale your response to match the problem. All right, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in practice, in a real world? Well, probably the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think about something we all do, packing for a trip. Right, check this out. For a simple day trip, think painting a wall or changing a door handle, you just pack the basics, right? That's your simple, safe system of work. For a weekend getaway, maybe building a temporary set for a show like Antiques Roadshow, you need a bit more. You pack more carefully, you need a structured planning sheet. But then, for a massive international expedition, like a huge construction project for DIYSO, well, that's a whole different ballgame. You need full assurance, formal roles, the whole shebang. See? The packing is always proportional to the journey. So let's put these two extremes side by side. For low complexity stuff, we're talking light but disciplined governance. It's all about keeping it simple but still having control. But on the high complexity side, it's a different world. We're talking full assurance and board-level oversight. The mindset completely shifts from simple control to foresight, not hindsight. They're two totally different approaches for two totally different levels of risk. Okay, so hearing all this, a really important question probably pops into your head. If we're scaling back all the paperwork for the small jobs, does that mean we're also scaling back on safety? Are we just giving the simple tasks a free pass? And the answer to that is a hard no. Absolutely not. Proportionality is never, ever an excuse to be careless. It doesn't matter how much you scale the paperwork up or down, there's always a bedrock, a foundation of core safety standards that applies to every single project. No exception. The BBC calls these their golden rules, and they are the absolute non-negotiables. We're talking about really fundamental stuff. Getting the right people on the job, making sure everyone is communicating, providing the right training, and this one's huge, making sure people feel like they can speak up and ask questions if they're unsure. This is the foundation that holds everything else up. And on top of those golden rules, there's one more universal piece to this puzzle. For every single project, big or small, there has to be a clear, traceable record of the decisions made along the way. Think of it as a chain of evidence. They call this the golden thread. So this golden thread creates a story, a logical flow of information. It starts with what's called pre-construction info, or PCI. Basically, what are the risks before we even begin? From there, you do your risk assessments. Okay, how are we going to control those risks? Next up is the construction plan, or CPP, which is the who, what, when, and how of doing the job safely. And finally, it all gets wrapped up in a safety file. When that thread is unbroken, every decision is clear and defensible. But if that thread breaks, well, trying to prove you did the right thing becomes nearly impossible. Now, I know we've been using examples from construction and TV production, but this idea, this mental model of proportionality, it applies everywhere. It's really about a fundamental shift in thinking. Focus your energy where it matters most. Because think about it, going way over the top on a tiny task is just as wasteful and inefficient as not doing enough for a huge, risky one. Either way, you're not getting the best outcome. So if you walk away with just one thing from all this, let it be this: match your effort to the risk. That's it. That's the secret sauce to being both incredibly safe and incredibly efficient. And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Take a look at your own world, your job, your projects, even just how you plan things in your daily life. Where are you stuck in that one-size-fits-all mindset? And where could you swap that out for the smarter, more proportional way of thinking?